Alright, it's time to review Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Don't worry, this is a non-spoiler review, but this is how you end a trilogy. Hollywood has had an issue of really floundering their final entries for trilogies in so many scenarios. That is most certainly not the case with Guardians of the Galaxy. I am so happy and relieved to say. Now, to be fair, Guardians of the Galaxy has really stood on its own for being very, very funny and being very light with so much energy. This movie is hilarious and has so much energy, but it is also very fucking dark. So consider this a PSA for those of you who are hypersensitive to seeing animal cruelty on screen. There are definitely some moments that might be a bit too traumatic for small children. I was shocked and surprised that Disney even allowed this, but I am so happy that they did because it served the story very well. All these dark elements were never gratuitous. There were real stakes in this movie. There are life and death scenarios and there are consequences, and this movie did not shy away from those darker, traumatic moments to really drive this narrative forward. I also love that this movie does not feel like an MCU factory film. This movie feels contained within the Guardians of the Galaxy films alone. It doesn't feel like it's trying to build a 25 film cinematic universe. Thank fucking God. Everyone does a fantastic job in this movie. There is no weak link, and I'm so happy that every single Guardian gets many moments to shine. Now, I do have some standouts in particular if I were to pick some of my personal MVPs, which I'm sure will be different for everyone else, but I have to go with Nebula, Rocket, and Star-Lord in particular. Had some fantastic, amazing moments. Also, this film succeeded in giving us the most diabolical villain in the MCU ever. Chakotay Owuji plays the High Evolutionary, and he is so fucking evil. I haven't hated a villain this much since Joffrey from Game of Thrones. He is, without a doubt, the most evil MCU villain ever introduced, and he does a fantastic performance, brings so much gravitas to someone so fucking horrible. This film has excellent pacing. It is 2.5 hours, but it flies by. There is so much action. There is so much humor. We know the Guardians for their humor and their positive energy, and this movie has so much of it, but I can't stress enough that there are some traumatic moments within this movie that really add to the layers of this overall story. This isn't a picture-perfect superhero movie. There are a couple things that could have been a little bit better, but that's really not saying much because the rest of the movie is so fucking great. I will say Adam Warlock fans might be a little bit disappointed with the treatment of this character. I was never married to the character. I never read the comics. I do like Will Poulter as an actor. He does a great job, but I've heard some people that are, that were a little bit disappointed with what they got versus what's in the comics. But overall, I felt like this movie felt like one big, great final hurrah with your best friends. I feel connected to them. They do feel like family. It's a real testament to the family that you create. And that's what this movie has done, and this franchise has done so beautifully. This is one of the best MCU films ever. It is definitely within my top 5, and I'd say that I like it just as much, but probably a little bit more than the first Guardians of the Galaxy, which was my favorite leading up to this. I give so much praise to James Gunn for what he was able to do. He put his heart and soul into this, and you felt it. I felt the magic in this movie that has been severely lacking in the MCU as of late, and I think this was a beautiful ending to these characters as we know it. I'm going to give Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 an A-. This is how you end a trilogy. Thank you, Guardians of the Galaxy.